Hey guys, Jared here, and today we're going to check out the insanely thin and powerful ASUS ROG Zephyrus gaming laptop, and find out how well it performs in games and various benchmarks. Inside the box, we've got the laptop itself, warranty information and manual, power adapter, wrist rest, screwdriver, USB to Ethernet adapter, and ROG Strix Impact mouse. Let's start with the basic specs of the laptop. In my configuration, there's an Intel 7700HQ quad-core Kaby Lake CPU, which runs at 2.8 GHz and can turbo up to 3.8 GHz. There's 24GB of DDR4 memory, running at 2400 MHz. And for storage, there's a 1TB Samsung M.2 PCIe SSD, which runs Windows 10 Pro. Now this is where things get interesting. For the graphics, there's an Nvidia GeForce GTX 1080 with Max-Q design, and 8GB of GDDR5 memory. This is a great match for the 15.6-inch 120Hz 1080p IPS display, as we'll see later in the benchmarks. For network connectivity, there's Wi-Fi which supports 802.11ac and Bluetooth 4.1. As the laptop is so thin, there's no RJ45 Ethernet port built in, however it does come with a USB to Ethernet adapter. The laptop has a black metallic look to it, with a copper-coloured trim that runs around the outside edge. This is easily the thinnest and most powerful laptop I've ever reviewed. The physical dimensions of the laptop are 37.9cm in width, 26.2cm in depth, but most interestingly, just 1.6cm in height. The maximum height actually does increase by another 10mm when you open the lid, as the base towards the back lowers out to rise the laptop off of the surface that it's on, which helps improve airflow while allowing the overall build to remain so thin. The total weight of the laptop is 2.26 kilos, and with the power brick and power cable, this increases to 3.1 kilos. Considering the high specs of the hardware, this is very impressive. It's definitely very portable. I've tested much heavier laptops that didn't have specs close to this. As mentioned, the screen is a 1080p panel, which I personally prefer at the 15-inch size. It's also got a 120Hz refresh rate, which is perfect as we can take advantage of the serious graphics horsepower inside. As mentioned, we've got an Nvidia 1080 here, but with the newer Max-Q version, which performs somewhere between a 1070 and normal 1080. As a result of the Max-Q design, we use less power, which lets us use a smaller power brick. Less power means the laptop needs less cooling space to maintain good temps, which in turn results in quieter fans. And this is how they're able to get it so thin. We've also got Nvidia's G-Sync here, which keeps everything looking extremely smooth. I've performed my usual backlight bleed test on the display, which involves having the laptop show a completely black screen in a dark room to help emphasize any bleeding around the edges. I then take a long exposure photo with my camera to help display any bleed. So basically, this is a worst case scenario test. We can see that there does appear to be a bit of bleed around the top and towards the right. And while this will greatly vary between each individual laptop, I must admit I thought there would be less from such a high-end laptop. With that said, it was minor enough that I didn't actually notice it while playing games in a normally lit room. The brightness of the screen can be adjusted quite a bit, and the viewing angles are fairly good thanks to the IPS panel, though the image did start to change a little after moving more than 45 degrees to the left or right. Up and down angles looked fine. The screen also has a matte finish to it, which I personally prefer as you can more easily see what you're doing despite the lighting situation, as reflections are harder to see. While moving the display, I did find a little bit of flex, but nothing too bad considering the overall thinness of the laptop. Above the display is a HD camera, so it's only capable of 720p video. It looks okay, but not great. The microphone sounds fairly average, maybe a little muffled. I'll let you decide. The keyboard has taken some getting used to. As you may have noticed, it's right up the front of the laptop. This is because the majority of the hardware is all up the back. The laptop does come with a wrist rest, which helps a bit, but if I was traveling with the laptop often, it would be a bit of a hassle to bring everywhere. And personally, I didn't actually notice any difference with or without the wrist rest, but that's probably just due to the way that I type. While pushing down on the keyboard, there was a little bit of flex, but I had no issues with this under normal use. The keys themselves felt a little mushy to press, but I had no problems typing on it for an extended period. The keyboard also has Rgb Lighting, which can be controlled with the ROG Aura Core software. However, only a couple of effects are available. You can also only change the colors of all keys together, or the WASD or QWER groups of keys. No further customization was possible, although perhaps this could change in a future software update. As a result of the keyboard placement, the touchpad is also right up the front, over towards the right where the numpad would traditionally be. Don't worry though, with the touch of a button you can swap the touchpad over to a numpad, which I found to work very well. The numpad lights up red and I wasn't able to customize this color. This layout did take quite a bit of getting used to. While using the laptop, I did find myself moving my hand towards the middle of the keyboard where I expected the touchpad to be. Once you're used to it though, I found that it worked alright, despite the shape. But I definitely preferred using the included ROG Strix Impact mouse. There's a couple of built-in stereo speakers on either side of the keyboard. They actually sound pretty good as far as laptop speakers are concerned, and have a decent amount of bass. Now let's check out the available I/O. On the left, there's the power input, HDMI 2.0 port, 2 USB 3.0 Type A ports, and a 3.5mm audio jack. On the right, there's a USB 3.1 Gen 2 Type C over Thunderbolt port, which can be used to send DisplayPort output to an external G-Sync monitor, 2 more USB 3.0 Type A ports, and Kensington lock. The front has nothing except some subtle ASUS branding, while the back only has some air exhaust vents, with more of that copper-coloured theme. There's also some red lighting which comes out from the rear vents that appear when you open the laptop. I wasn't able to customize the colors though. On the top of the lid there's a nice brushed metal effect with the ROG logo which lights up red when the laptop is on, and again I wasn't able to customize the color there. Some further customization would have been nice as there are a few different areas that are always going to be lit up red which may not match the color that you've set for the keyboard. Not the end of the world, but worth noting. Underneath I was a little surprised to find a complete lack of air intake vents. Basically, they're not needed, as the base of the laptop sits against the desk, and when in use it will create its own space for airflow. There's also some rubber feet which do a good job at stopping the laptop from moving around while in use. So as you can hopefully see, the laptop specs are pretty impressive, so let's take a look at some benchmarks. We'll first cover some real-world gaming benchmarks, followed by tests with various benchmarking tools. All benchmarks will run at a 1080p resolution. In Battlefield 1 with the Ultra preset and DirectX 11 we averaged 117 frames per second. In Grand Theft Auto 5 with max settings and VSync disabled we got 69 frames per second. In The Witcher 3 with the Ultra preset, VSync and Hairworks disabled, the laptop averaged 83 frames per second. In Watchdogs 2 with the Ultra preset, 60 frames per second was all we were able to get. Shadow of Mordor with Ultra settings scored the highest with 154 frames per second. Rise of the Tomb Raider with the very high preset and DirectX 11 got 94 frames per second, while DirectX 12 pushed this up to 105 frames per second. Ghost Recon with the Ultra preset was only able to run at 50 frames per second, while Doom with the Ultra preset and OpenGL ran smoothly at 113 frames per second. We can see that most of the games are achieving really high frame rates, even at maximum settings, which really takes advantage of the 120Hz display. Other games which became CPU bottlenecked still managed to hover around the respectable 60 frames per second mark. And let's not forget we can turn the settings down a little to increase frame rates further if desired. Now onto the benchmarking tools. While a useful indicator, note that these results are less practical compared to the real-world gaming results previously shown. In Heaven benchmark with the quality set to Ultra, tessellation set to Extreme, and anti-aliasing set to 8, we were able to hit 93 frames per second. Valley benchmark was a little slower. With the quality set to Ultra and anti-aliasing on 8, we received a score of 87 frames per second. I then ran both the 3D Mark Firestrike and TimeSpy benchmarks and got scores of 14,013 and 5,528 respectively. Disk speeds from the Samsung PCIe SSD were also impressive, with over 3.3GB in sequential reads and 1.8GB per second in sequential writes. This was very noticeable while loading different games. They opened up much faster compared to the typical SATA 3 based SSD speeds that I'm used to seeing. As you'd expect in a laptop with limited cooling space, the temperatures do get a little warm. During idle with an ambient room temperature of 18 degrees Celsius, the CPU idled at 25 degrees Celsius, while the GPU idled at 39 degrees Celsius. While running stress tests for over an hour, both the CPU and GPU peaked at 80 degrees Celsius. The laptop felt fine around the keyboard and touchpad area, as the hardware is all at the back. This does however make the surface towards the back very warm, which isn't really an issue as you won't be resting your hands there anyway. The bottom of the case also gets pretty warm. I wouldn't want to use it on my lap for gaming, but that would probably be a little awkward to do with the keyboard right up the front anyway. I did actually see the GPU core clock boost to 1771 MHz while under load. Even once the temperature had stabilized at maximum, it was still sitting above 1700, so even with the Max-Q design it's still performing quite well, and only seems to throttle back a little bit at max temperatures, and no CPU throttling was observed. But keep in mind that it's only 18 degrees Celsius inside here as it's currently winter, so this could change in a warmer environment. Now with a laptop of this size and those temperatures, you'd expect the fans to have to be working pretty hard to keep it cool, as there's not much room for heatsinks. However, considering the overall form factor, I think it did a pretty good job at staying quiet. At idle, the laptop sat around the 27 decibel mark and I could barely hear it. While running the stress tests, it went up to peak at 47 decibels, so it's even quieter than larger laptops that don't even have as powerful hardware that I've previously tested, which was pretty impressive. Now let's talk about the major downside of the laptop, the battery life. The battery is a 4-cell 50 watt-hour battery, and with a full charge and doing basic tasks such as browsing the internet and watching YouTube, with the screen on minimum brightness, keyboard lighting off, and all background apps disabled, I was only able to use it for 2 hours and 6 minutes. While playing The Witcher 3 with medium settings, the battery lasted just 45 minutes while being capped to 30 frames per second with Nvidia's battery boost. To be honest, this is to be expected when you consider the high-end specs of the laptop and just how thin and lightweight it is compared to much larger and heavier alternatives. If you're after a powerful laptop with a large battery, you're going to want to look elsewhere at something bigger. There's always going to be a compromise between battery life, specs, size, and weight. With that said, I think that this does fill a great niche for users that want a laptop as a desktop replacement that's still portable. Just keep in mind that you'll probably want to take the power brick with you wherever you go. Another downside is the price. But hopefully by this point you're expecting that. Powerful hardware isn't cheap, especially when in such a small form factor. At the time of recording, the laptop appears to start around $2,700 US, so around 3,400 Australian dollars for my Aussie viewers. But this will change depending on RAM and hard drive sizes. Overall, I think the Zephyrus is very impressive. ASUS has managed to fit some seriously powerful hardware into a small laptop which still runs fairly quiet and performs well. This does of course come at the expense of both battery life and cost. This laptop is definitely not for everyone, but if you're after a powerful yet portable desktop replacement, then this could be what you're looking for. Just be prepared to stay close to a power outlet. So what did you guys think about the ASUS ROG Zephyrus GX501 gaming laptop? I'm still pretty impressed by the powerful specs they managed to pack into such a thin laptop. It's very portable and can still smash through any games at max settings. But these key points do come at a high cost and the expensive battery life. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, or simply leave a like or dislike on the video to let me know what you thought. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for future tech videos like this one.